Hello and welcome to this NLP for You online video on the Circle of Excellence change pattern. The Circle of Excellence is one of the earliest patterns developed and probably one of the easiest patterns to learn. It's taught on just about every NLP training course and is one of the change patterns that most people have come across. However, just because it's old and simple doesn't mean that it's not effective. It's actually one of the most effective and flexible patterns, and I've seen it put to some very interesting uses. The purpose of the pattern is to allow the client to have access to helpful resources on demand. What does that mean in practice? Well, imagine you've got problems with public speaking. It's a common enough problem, and you want to have the confidence when you speak. The Circle of Excellence pattern allows you to create the feelings of confidence ahead of time and access them when you're going to speak. The circle is a mental creation that you can take with you and use whenever you need it, and that can come in very handy. There are just 8 steps in this pattern, and each one is pretty simple. As with all patterns, explaining it takes far longer than actually doing it. So let's begin. Step 1. Identify. The first step is an easy one. Identify the resourceful state. What state do you want to be able to access through the Circle of Excellence? Sometimes it's easier to analyse the problem. For example, someone who has trouble with social anxiety might want to stay calm, so their resourceful state is a feeling of calmness. Perhaps it's an actor who can't get into character, and the resourceful state is being the character. And yes, this really does work. Whatever you decide on as a resourceful state, make sure that it's clearly identified. It's easier to work with one state at a time. So if you want happy and calm, work on one and then the other, and collapse them together as a third step. There will be a video on collapsing anchors, and that will guide you through the process. Step 2. Access. Once you know what you want, you're going to need to access that state. Now, most people have past experiences of the state they're aiming for, and so it's easy to have them go back through their memory and pick times when they felt excited or calm or peaceful, or whatever other resource they are looking for. Ideally, you want to find the biggest, brightest and strongest memory to latch onto and have them bring that to their mind. You can even use submodality shifts to enhance the feeling. The idea is to access a peak experience. Now, there will be times when the resource you want isn't one you've ever experienced, and in this case the process becomes a little bit more complicated. You're going to have to find the resource from somewhere else, and there are a number of ways of doing this. One is to think of someone you know who shows the resource you are looking for, and then take that and use it to create your own experience. Or, if you're creating something unique, then you can just use your imagination and create it that way. Since memories are created anyway, then this creation process usually works just as well as remembering a previous experience. Once you've got your peak experience, it's time for step 3. Create. Imagine a circle on the floor and throw the resource into it. Basically, you're creating a mental construct for your resource that you can step into on the floor in front of you. This is where the fun part comes in. You're just going to go through the process of adding more and more content into the circle to bump up the strength of feeling. You're just trying to turn up the whole thing to 11. Start simply and add content as you go. Start by making the circle a colour that represents the resource. Make it bold and bright. Add in a version of yourself that is in the positive state so you can step into that version of you later in the process. What about sounds? What would you hear? What would you say to yourself? It really is a case of the more the merrier. The more you put in, the more you'll get out. You can add objects, music, smells, sensations such as warmth. You're adding in the basics of the moment, and you'll spend some time refining it after you've stepped in and tested it. Which brings us neatly on to the next step. Step 4. Step in. Get yourself into a neutral state so that you can be aware of the changes that will take place, and when you're ready, step into the circle and into the version of you standing in the circle. As you do, you'll notice that you will assume the stance and posture of the image, and you will feel the emotional change within your body. Now, at this stage, it will be strong enough to be noticeable, but it may not be completely motivating. So this is the time to think about how you're feeling standing in the circle and notice what is missing. Think about what you can add to the circle to make it much more compelling. How can you ramp it up? What do you need to change to make it 10 times, 100 times more powerful? How far can you actually take it? Once you've got some ideas, it's time for the next part. Step 5, step out. Now this might sound trivial, but it's an important step. Step backwards out of the circle, leaving the resourceful state and emotions in the circle. At this point, you don't want to bring anything out of the circle. That's for later. At this stage, all you should be doing is building on to the structure that you've already made. Step 6. Enhance. Now you can add in all the things you thought of in step 4, when you were standing inside the circle. At this point, you can also start turning things up, making them brighter, louder, and larger than life. The more time you spend here, the more powerful the overall effect. You're trying to make the whole circle as strong and as compelling as possible. The bigger the difference between your neutral state and the resourceful state, the better. This shouldn't take very long, and once you're ready, you can go to step 7. Step 7. Test. When you're ready, get yourself into your neutral state and then step into the circle, into the version of you that has the resources in the circle. And when you're at the peak of the state, walk forwards out of the circle, taking the resources with you, and notice how great you feel. Now, if you think that the current level of sensation isn't strong enough, you can step back into the circle, then backwards out of the circle, leaving the resource inside, and then go back and repeat steps 4, 5, and 6. This will just amp up the power of the circle. Once you've got to a position where you're getting the results you want from the circle, it's time for the final step. Step 8. Take it away. You've now got a circle of excellence that gives you all of the resources you need to solve a particular issue. But at the moment, this is on the floor directly in front of you. I know this sounds really odd, but I've discovered that the vast majority of people link their circle to a particular place, which is great from a know where you left it kind of thing, but pretty unhelpful if you need the resource at a different place. So I've found the best thing to do is for you to pick up the circle and put it somewhere safe in your mind. You can shrink it down and put it in your head, or I usually have clients bend down and fold the circle up. The physical act seems to cement it in their mind much more strongly. And that's it. You've got a circle of excellence that you can take out of your mind at any point, slap it on the floor, walk into it, and then you've got direct access to the resourceful state whenever you want it. Although it seems simple, the circle of excellence is really useful and can actually be used in a variety of ways. One of my clients had a problem switching off from work when he got home, so he created a reverse circle of excellence of sorts. He created a circle just inside his home, which he could walk into and leave all of his work thoughts. He would then step out, leaving them behind, and have a clear mind for his family, until he stepped in and picked everything up the next day. Now that's a creative solution. And that's it for this video. I hope you found it interesting, and you might give the circle a go to see what you can achieve with it. If you like this video, then please let me know in the comments below, and you can like and subscribe. You can find more information on NLP on my website at www.nlpforyouonline.com. And until next time, goodbye and good mental health.